Hello, welcome. This is Roger Weston. This is The Underground, at least until further notice. Today we're talking about the State of the Union. So there is good news if you'll stick around to the end. You won't want to miss that because there's good news at the end. We're in a recession. The media evidently just found out about this. It's been going on for many months. And it's been clear to anyone paying attention and willing to see the facts. Inflation is at the highest in 40 years, which is, you go to the store and it seems like every time I go to the store, the same things cost more and more every time I go to the store. And it's tough to deal with. Crime is soaring across the country. The price of gas is twice what it was a couple of years ago, twice. Philadelphia has hit a milestone in its history. According to Just the News, Philadelphia surpasses 500 murders again. So Philadelphia, the level of violence dwarfs recent years. It dwarfs recent years. When as few as 277 murders happened in 2016. Now, to me, that sounds like a lot. 277 families went through a trauma like that. On the other hand, 500 does dwarf it. So you just look at the bigger picture. Things are not going in the right direction. The war in the Ukraine goes on. If you listen to the media, you'd think it was a wonderful success. That's all they talk about. But according to Colonel McGregor, that's a narrative. The Ukraine war has actually been a disaster for Ukraine. Where 5 Ukrainian boys are dying for every Russian. So not only that, the Ukrainians are now fielding 14 and 15-year-olds. They're literally putting out their kids out there because that's who's left at this point. What will be left in a couple of weeks after Russia's winter offensive, after the ground freezes, it's a tragedy. It's a human tragedy that is oddly being championed by the media and others. However, it has been a big win for politicians who have been the beneficiary of money going through crypto scams in the Jamaica, Bahamas, Panama, perhaps, and other unknown avenues. Now, the weather models point to the coldest winter in 10 years. Well, this is very upsetting because they've been promising global warming forever, and I've been planning to plant an orchard in Montana where I'm going to grow oranges. But now those plans are obviously out the window because things aren't materializing after all. Now they're talking about the coldest winter, and here I was planning to, have a resort, a tropical vacation at my orchard in my orange orchard in Montana. It's not going to happen. So the weather, it's going to be a cold winter. Very cold. It's coldest in 10 years. Suicide, an epidemic that hits close to home for many Americans. Suicide is an epidemic. This is another tragedy. This is obviously a result of many different things. It could be related to addictions. It could be a bad economy can really loss of income. There's various things that cause people to make bad decisions. And anyway, an epidemic like this is a huge tragedy, and very, very sad. So moving on, Americans have an absolute mountain of credit card debt. Well, that probably is related to record inflation, 40-year high inflation rates, and loss of jobs, mass layoffs that are occurring. So that's not good. In fact, credit card debt is at an all-time high. It's at an all-time high right now. So here's a piece of news you may or may not have heard about, but there's been concern that the Biden bucks, the government cryptocurrency that they're working on, many people are concerned that this is going to become some kind of apocalyptic, tyrannic authoritarian state where they can track everything you do based on your purchases and sanction those who don't spend their money in the right places on the right things at the right times. So there's many people are concerned about these, have these kind of dystopian fears of authoritarian cashless society where they track your purchases and cancel those who they don't like. Now, it has been debunked. This theory has been Snopes.com. According to Snopes.com, that's an overblown scenario. That's not really going to happen. They aren't going to totally control your bank account. They aren't going to monitor, every time you spend $600. None of that's going to happen. Of course not. They say this is all hypothetical that they're doing, that this bill that they passed, Executive Order 14067, doesn't say this is all going to happen. They're just studying the possibilities. Okay, why are they studying it? Okay, why are they studying it? If they want it and they're studying it, is this a slow drip type of situation where suddenly they aren't studying it for nothing. So it hasn't happened yet, evidently, but that's the direction things seem to be heading, and they claim that it's not going to be used to target citizens like we saw with Janet. Anyway, we saw that when conservatives were targeted years ago by the IRS, we saw that, but that couldn't happen again. We know that could not happen again. We've seen cancel culture go crazy over the years now, the cancel culture. but we can be assured that nothing like that could happen here. Well, that's all good news. That's all good news to know that nothing like that could happen. Google Home. Here's another story from Tech Radar. Google Home speakers could have been hijacked to spy on your conversations. So we had cases in the past. At least one case in, I believe it was Philadelphia, of a school administrator possibly being accused of spying through cameras inside students' homes. He denied it. In any case, now we have this story that Google Home speakers could have been hijacked to spy on your conversations. They could listen in to you, but would they do something like that? I'll leave you to be the judge, but that's out there. Already slammed by inflation, small businesses struggle to repay COVID-19 disaster loans. Well, if we wouldn't have these lockdowns, maybe they wouldn't have needed the disaster loans to begin with. Now, this is really tough on small businesses, because small businesses is very extremely difficult to. It's not easy to pull it off. A lot of things have to go your way, and. Well, here's some good news. Kamala Harris, this is partially good news because Kamala Harris is on the job, evidently. So we know that could turn things around. Vice President Kamala Harris claimed 1/3 of small businesses have closed during the pandemic. Well, we can all be thankful that Kamala takes time out for her amazing work on the southern border to oversee the failure of businesses. So 19 attorney generals, this from Huffington Post. 19 attorney generals call on Congress to legalize banking for the weed industry. That's an interesting story. Next, we'll be hearing that the banking industry will be providing weed to the attorney generals, perhaps. As of 2020, Oregon has become the first state in the nation to officially decriminalize possession and personal use of all drugs. Okay? You may have heard about this. In November 2020, they passed ballot measure 110, decriminalized possession of drugs such as heroin, cocaine, methamphetamines, LSD. This passed with 58% support. Their mothers must be so proud of them. This is an issue. I'd be surprised if there's anyone who hasn't lost someone they knew to a drug overdose or suicide related to drugs. So that's pretty. Congratulations, Oregon. Congratulations. It's a brilliant move. So how's it going? That's 2 years ago. How's it going? Well, let's take a look. According to Fox News, Oregon's drug decriminalization effort a tragedy. I wonder why they'd say something like that when this is a celebrated. Oregonians are celebrating this. At least the western ones are. Oregon ranks second highest among U.S. states for substance abuse, with nearly 1 in 5 adults addicted. Wow, just think about what a tragedy it is, addiction is, and how it absolutely not only destroys lives but of the addicts, but of their families, destroys relationships. It's an unmitigated, ongoing, slow train wreck of human lives. But that's something they can be proud of, to have passed that law. Oregon police seized enough fentanyl. Here's a news story out. According to Oregon police, seized enough fentanyl to kill 4 million after searching driver slumped over the wheel. So we have this, you got this intersection. People are honking at this car because the car doesn't go at the green light. This happens 3 or 4 times. Finally, somebody goes up and looks in the window, and you got this guy slumped over the wheel. He's passed out, slumped over the wheel of his car. And so this is how the cops found 4 million, enough fentanyl in this car to kill 4 million people, which was 18 pounds. 18 pounds is not a lot of weight, but it's enough to kill 4 million. Okay. Overdose deaths continue to rise in 2022. Okay. Oregon drug overdose deaths more than double in 2 years, fueled by an abuse of synthetic opioid fentanyl. So, is this mass murder with an intention, without an intention to kill? I don't know. I just wonder about that. Good news is that we can make smarter decisions in our own lives. We don't have to go along with the crowd, and we can also pray for the victims of this horrible plague, which is devastating the youth in Oregon and many other. All across the country, really. Here's a story. A software engineer stole more than $300,000 from an employer in office space-inspired scheme. So he got this idea from a movie, and he's been skimming over $250,000 from the website of his employer. Disappointing. Much of the good news, there is a lot of good news. Much of it is found in the Bible. Churches are still open. The air is fresh. The parks are open. If you're in the right cities, they're safe. The good news is there's free entertainment out there. The library, learning to play an instrument, books, inspirational movies, church, daily mass, puzzles, board games, bike rides, dog walking, a walk in the park, exercise. There's a lot of good news out there. It's just a matter of what we focus on. Thanks for watching The Underground. See you next time.